Hello ma'am, good day. So for this video, I will be discussing my answers about the competency-based education. So the first question is, how does competency-based learning contribute to the success of teachers' teaching process? So before I'm going to answer that question, I'd like first to define the term competency-based education. So in basic terms, competency-based education means that instead of focusing on grades and yearly curriculum schedules, the main focus here is that the students are placed on how competent they are in each other in different subject areas. So now, the competency-based learning contributed a lot to teachers whose goal is to provide excellent expertise to students, and of course, the teachers in this way would strive to find more equitable ways and efficient actions in order for them to see cases that would most probably help them, both teachers and student, grow. So in fact, there are many things that would help the teachers and both the teachers and the students go. Is that the teachers teach learning where she can attend seminars and can share it to the students and vice versa. So in that case, while the teacher is demonstrating, the student is able to learn too at the same time. The second question is, can you give one scenario where you can apply competency-based approach in your ICT class? So one example I can give to this question is when Miss Dalis gave us a task where we have to perform a HTML using the HTML and video ourselves performing it. And that is one of a very good example of this one competency based approach where you really have to put your knowledge learned from the discussion into actions. So the third question is, being a teacher, what are the things you need to do as if a student cannot demonstrate a task or competency? So as a future educator, where I commit myself to teach students, if there were cases like that, like unable to perform a task I gave to them, so the first thing I do is to check if the task I give them is related or aligned with the topic I discuss. Second, I approach or ask that a certain student where he or she doesn't able to demonstrate. So maybe there were valid reasons for unable to do the task. So I must address and put and do something for that. I would like also to provide guidance to that student if there were something for him or her hard to do. And of course, I would motivate the students and never to be like being strict, so that the student would not be ashamed of doing the task you give. Of course, it is our goal to it is our goal or the outcomes that we want is that the students would really learn and have to apply the learning that he or she got from the discussion. So the fourth question is, how CBE differs to outcome-based education? So simply, competency-based education, it focuses on the outcomes of learning. It mainly focuses on, uh, yeah, the outcomes of learning where students really have to try like hands-on activities, performing a task. While the outcome-based education means it focuses on the organizing, it focusing and organizing everything in an education system, like around what is essential for all students to be able to do successfully at the end of their learning experience. It's like you provoke or you want to provoke the outcome, the For example, you want to provoke that the outcome would be successfully done, where the students would be able to really perform na, ay, if the students are going to do this one, I if I have to do this discussion, then the students would be able to really kanang understand what is that or what is being discussed. For example, in your outcomes, in your learning outcomes, you want that your students have to really understand what is love or give example of love. So at the end of the activity, you want to see that the learning or the outcome of that particular discussion is really met. So the fifth question is that based on our discussion, explain in your own how CBE differs to traditional education in terms of grading systems, structures, and its learning outcomes. So in traditional, we will focus first on the grades. The grades are made up of test scores, assignments, and behavior. Yeah, it's really clear based on what I've observed. If you are not behaving well, then you probably get a low grade. While in the competency-based education, it's the scores are based on the performance. If the students are performing well, the per, the student's performance is high, then of course the grade would be high. It's different than the traditional grading system where if you are misbehaving in the class or your assignment are low, then probably your grades are low too. So it is really different in the traditional and the competency-based education, where you can really cite that in traditional grading system, there were a really big difference. If you are going to uh, like iindigni mo siya sa competency-based education. Because in the competency-based education, it focuses more on the performance of the students man nga need niyang ma-accomplish. Well, sa traditional grades, it's also like the same. However, there were kanang like rules or guidelines nga gisunod. For example, the scores of the test, uh, without even checking if the students had cheated on that particular exams, there's no kanang there's no kanang sa tawag ani, there's no way nga kung for example kung taas yung grades sa scores bisag nanuhid pa siya, then it's okay. So inana sa traditional, while sa competency-based education is different. You cannot cheat because you have to perform it yourself. So the difference between the learning outcomes of the traditional and the competency-based learning outcomes is that in traditional, they are more likely focused on memorization, comprehension, with the goal of passing tests. For example, in my experience, I have classmates who cannot comply everything that needs in the school. However, they can just pass pass outputs like trapo, like passing floor wax, silhig, like that. While in the competency-based learning, the learning outcomes like it's more have to be proven in order for you to really kanang move next, because you have to focus on building your skills, like you have to become a better learners into an adulthood, and that is how the competency based learning different to the traditional. Because in the traditional, as I said, you can it's likely more focused on memorization, the comprehension where there were like bases on passing. Explain this passage by Ruth Stein. Competency-based learning focuses on the mastery of skills by articulating clear learning outcomes and ensuring that the students are supported to achieve these outcomes. So it is very clear that once you impose competency-based uh, learning, you have to focus on what the students have to be kanang achieve, that the students are able to do this task, where you can provide also kanang like exact instructions, like clear instructions and easy instructions for students to do the task that you give them easily rapid. And then it's like the students would be able to do the task where there's no hardship, like, oh my god, in the first place you would say that you made it you made it up until the end, like you do have passes many blocks where you step by step had really do your very best to just demonstrate the task or the competency. Many people also believe that to see is to believe, and it's like that. It's like how complex is the competency based learning is being imposed, where if you cannot, as people would always believe that to see is to believe, then you have to prove that the knowledge that you have learned is certainly right. And I also want to like kanang say how there were someone who says that uh, learning by experience, it's like learning by experience where you have to learn the things from your teacher, and at the same time you experience the way, and you have to properly give and actions to what you learned. So I guess that's all that I can say about my answer in this few questions. In this questions and tasks. So I hope also that CBE would really kanang help other people to work hand in hand in order for them just to achieve the goal that they are aiming to.